Okay, YJ MGC4 out of the box, I wasn't too impressed. Main reason was like the cube was overlooped with factory loop, which made it a bit less pleasant to turn, and the loop was also slightly leaking out, and it's generally quite similar to what the Yaesu V2M felt out of the box as well. And how I set up the Yaesu V2M basically just applied to the MGC, which is I just clean out most of the stock loop and replace it with Kelvin's high viscosity loop, and the cube is a lot better after that. So okay, so finally down to how does this cube feel like after it's set up. To me, I would say that it's definitely one of the best 4x4s, but I'll just go through the stats one by one. So first, the speed. The speed is, to me, just normal with my standards. I don't find it like abnormally fast or slow or anything. It's more or less the speed that I would use in like my main, for example, or like the Yaesu V2. It's just very similar to all these cubes. But for most people, I think this one would be slightly on the faster side. For corner cutting, I would say that there's also, I don't really point out that much that's special. I think it does cut slightly more than 1 piece forward and about 2/3 reverse, which I think most other 4x4s can do the same, or at least like the most other good 4x4s. So I feel like, okay, this cube is going along the trend that the Aosu WR offers, where it doesn't really offer anything new or phenomenally great. It's more or less like a perfection of what you already know, which is just how I felt with the Aosu WR. Like, not a new invention that will like introduce magnets or like a new spring system or something like that, but it's more like every piece of knowledge you have about like what makes a good 4x4 is just taken to perfection, which is how I feel the Aosu WR is. And the MGC is similar, but I think it's just for slightly different taste. So yeah, one thing about this cube is the weight. So usually with most cubes of the MGC line, or at least the bigger ones, I do feel that they are really light and have a very low density feel, and that's exactly how I felt with the 5 and the 6. They are generally faster. Like, I think they're probably the fastest 5x5 and 6x6 that I've ever felt. And like when I turn them, like they feel very lightweight and low density, but I cannot say the same about the 4x4. The 4x4 does feel a little bit dense. It's definitely not a slow cube. Like the speed is fast enough to basically be my standard of what I want, but it's like it's just not exactly the same as like how the 5x5 and 6x6 feels. And for magnets, I would say the inners are a little bit stronger than the outers, but the difference is just very slight. It's not like one double strength inner because the manufacturer forgot that you have to double the inner for the polarity issue. It's not like that kind of problem. It's like the magnets actually feel very properly planned on the MGC. It's like deliberately, it feels like it's deliberately done so that the inners will stay together when you do 3x3 stage, but at the same time they slice with relatively little effort, and you can do most else fine. For stability, I would say this is definitely a very stable cube that doesn't like squish around much at all. Okay, when it comes to mechanism, I would actually describe the MGC as a cross between the original Aosu and the Little Magic 4x4. So I'll talk about the Aosu first. So one very prominent feature of the Aosu, which I think it carries out into a vast majority of the 4x4 cubes, and in fact bigger cubes also carry this mechanism, which is the corner actually has two bases, a bigger base below and a smaller base on top. What most cubes differ from the Aosu is the relative size of the two bases. So you can tell this is the Meilong, this is the Aosu, and the Meilong has a much bigger top base, while the bottom base is relatively the same size. I would say the Meilong proportions are similar to an Uche, whereas the MGC is much more similar to the Aosu. You can tell like the top anchor is really very small and the bottom anchor is much bigger, and I think the bottom anchors are relatively the same size, but top anchor, I would actually say that the MGC's anchor is smaller, and it's not obvious on the corner, but if you look at the wing, which is the neighboring piece, which has this, because like mechanism is actually a cross section, so because of this anchor, the neighboring piece also has to bulge out slightly on the sides like that, and that's how the top anchor here prevents the wings from popping. So you can tell that the Aosu has the Aosu edge has a few extra hooks on the side here. On the MGC, however, if you look at those same sets of the extra hooks, they're actually slightly smaller than they are on the Aosu. And this has actually resulted in me getting one pop on the MGC. So one pop is not really that much of a big deal, but for me specifically, it shows that the MGC is not completely invincible against pops, and that and compared with like even the new batch Mini Aosu, which is the one I have here, and the Meilong 4, and now it could be 2017 or 18 or 19 actually. Like I've very rarely actually popped a 4x4. In a way, it's like -1 mark for the MGC in that area, although like I do think the cube is still quite decent in other areas. And another thing that I mentioned earlier was that the MGC also has a slight characteristic that is similar to the Little Magic. So the Little Magic actually has a third anchor on top in addition to those two, and it's found very close to the top. So it's not visible on the corner, but if you were to look at the side profile, you can tell like the two anchors, 1, 2, the third one's actually here, very closer to the top. So you can see a slight bump on the edge. So you can actually see a gap here, but by right there's a 1, 2 and third anchor here. And like, I'm not too sure exactly what does this do, but in theory it does add a little bit of stability on the outside of the cube and prevents it from flexing, which I might think that's the case with the MGC, but it's definitely not the case for the Little Magic 4 because the cube is way more flexible than I would sensibly want. So my final verdict on the MGC is that I actually still prefer my Meilong. I find that the Meilong can put up with all my ambitious finger tricks much better than MGC can, or let alone just any 4x4 except for the Aosu WR. So like most of my like more ambitious finger tricks are like the F and the B moves. When I'm solving an F12 pair and my hand just happens to rotate at a certain angle, it's like I just F and B, or use like D prime with my left hand and like that. Especially when solving like last cross edge. And another thing I would enjoy doing on the Meilong, for example, in this case would be D, and I'll do it like a U prime D, and then I'll just insert. And then because my finger is in this position, I'll just D prime like that. And like I feel like all these like more weird like finger tricks, they tend to like flow better on my Meilong, and I think the smaller size has some contribution to do to that. But it's also, I think, how the cube can like the stronger magnets, which forces layers to be more aligned, and also I do find that this cube is just a bit more stable and more reliable. Okay. So in general, like after doing a bunch of saws on the MGC, I average about low 46, which on my Meilong I can average like 45, but still low 46 would rank the MGC among the top cubes that I use, most likely the third, because like there's really only just the Meilong and the Aosu WR that I can speak of like better than the MGC. But even then, like I really can't name a cube that I can beat my MGC timings, like other than those two. And generally the MGC is definitely a very nice 4x4. It's smoother than my Meilong, and like for the general public, I do think it has a wider appeal, and it would definitely rank like top 2 like alongside the Aosu WR, while offering like a flagship performance at a lower price.